Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer all of your Detroit Lions questions. We are here now a couple weeks after the NFL draft. We got rookie minicamp coming up later this weekend. We've got the schedule release coming up in exactly a week from when we're recording this. So there's still stuff going on in the NFL calendar, and we've got plenty to talk about on this week's show. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. Find me at Detroit Online wherever you want to. With me, as always, are we back to managing editor now that the draft is over?
Whatever you want.
He is managing editor. He is at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt. How we doing, bud?
Hey, man, I feel like we haven't done a live show in a while.
Right.
Because we did recorded shows every day of the draft, and then we had the PODD mailbag. It feels like it's been like a month since we've done a live show. When I know it hasn't been that long, it just feels like it.
Yeah. Now people will be able to experience the tension in between us live. My favorite comment we got over draft weekend was, it was after day 2 of the draft, and I admittedly was a little irritable because we just had like the annoying press conference with Brad Holmes where everyone was asking him about edge. I was also not the happiest about how day 2 played out with the TeSlaa stuff, but I swear that wasn't what I was overly angry about. But like you and I kind of went back and forth on the TeSlaa stuff and how we always argue about trading up and trading down and all that sort of stuff. And someone commented on the Pride of Detroit Direct video, you can tell when two people that like each other have been together for too long.
Well, it was also 2 a.m.
It was. That is important context.
Yeah. For the second day in a row.
Yeah.
The jokes don't go over very well at 2 a.m. And so people tend to take those a little bit more serious. And
sounds like you're blaming me for the interaction, but okay, I'll take it.
No. I made a joke that went over. It flopped, and I should have known better. I felt the vibes. I was trying to lighten them. I should have just rolled with it.
Nah. It's all about tension. That's what gets the ratings. We got to yell at each other more.
All right, we can do that. We can do that too.
All right. Speaking of the TeSlaa pick, that's where we're going to start here. Rob Jr. 35 on Twitter asks, do you think Brad traded those 2 future third-round picks for TeSlaa knowing, A, he'll recoup some picks via comp picks from Onwuzurike, Anzalone, Rodrigo, Davenport, if healthy, B, recoup picks from trading JMO or Decker, or C, no dummy, he just liked TeSlaa that much, you're overthinking it. Well, there's a correction to quickly make at the top here, because I think this is a pretty common mistake that people make. Compensatory picks are based on the previous year's free agency. So the comp picks they'll be getting next year are based on this year's free agency, and they're not projected to, they're projected to maybe get a 7th round pick. So they won't have a 3rd round pick from, even if they lose a bunch of those guys that you mentioned next year, those draft picks would theoretically come in 2027.
So I'm, without the name calling, I'm going to pick option C. I don't want to call Rob a dummy, but I do think that Brad Holmes looked at TeSlaa and said, this is the end of this tier, and then there's a big drop until the next level of player. If he thought a guy at that level in that tier would have fallen 32 picks, then I think he would have stayed. But in my opinion, he was looking at the value, saw the drop off, and said, boy, it's something that I don't want to walk out of this draft without. And so he made the aggressive move to go up. And if, the plan is to get him experience, let him acclimate, get him into a starting role a year from now, then it'll be worth it. And if TeSlaa struggles and or doesn't make a transition to X smoothly, then we can start questioning, whether it was a smart move or not. But right now, there's I think it comes down to just him viewing TeSlaa as one of the upper tier players in this class, and then a big drop off after that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you 100%. And the way that Brad has talked about TeSlaa certainly backs that up, right? Like the whole quote about
Yeah.
him being his favorite pick in the or favorite wide receiver in the draft, not best, but favorite wide receiver in the class is what he said on 97.1. You know, and he talked about it, how there was, you know, only one or two or three guys in that tier left
Yeah.
at the top of this third round. And he's like, well, there's like 7 or 8 wide receiver hungry teams in front of us. We got to go make that move. It's just like it on a very basic level. It almost felt like the JMO trade up, where it was just like, this
Sure.
is a guy that we view on a different tier than everyone else. We're going to trade up basically an entire round to go get him. And, and yeah, I don't think in general he thinks that far down the line in what additional draft picks I'm going to get, because one, it's hard to predict what compensatory picks you're going to get, because even if you do let some of these guys go, you might be signing some guys that kind of offset that formula. You don't know what you're going to get if you're thinking about trading JMO or Decker, which, you know, there are at least discussions to be had next year. But you don't know what the market of that is going to look like. And so I think C makes the most sense. Again, not calling anyone a dummy here, but I want to go off our overlay here, because we got another good question that I think ties into this conversation from Erik Emmons on Twitter. Asks, what does TeSlaa have to become to justify the pick, and what is reasonable expectation for him given the draft capital within the next few years?
You know, I think we get caught up in the value like of when a player is drafted and a little too much, right?
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to do, but in my mind, it's kind of like grades. You know, they're fun to talk about and debate, and in the end of the day, they don't really mean a ton because it's all about what the player does when he gets there. But to kind of play along, I think in order to compensate that value, he has to be a starter next year, or at least in contention to be a starter. Um, there'll be some patience with him because he's switching positions, because he's a little bit raw. You know, he's only been playing receiver for a handful of years, right? He was a quarterback before that. And so there's still a learning curve to him. And, you know, he's going to contribute maybe situationally on offense. He's going to probably, is expected to be a special teamer in year one. But I really think the value or assessing whether the value was worth it or not will come maybe a year from now, or maybe a year and a half from now.
Yeah, I mean, if we're taking like the long-term scope of it, what does he have to accomplish in his time as a Detroit Lion? Does he have to make a second contract for it to be worth it? Does he have to give a Tim Patrick level of play for 3 out of his 4 years on his rookie deal? Like, I think that's probably the starting point, right? Like, he has to. It doesn't, and it's not necessarily about receptions. It does, you know, I don't think he has to be a Pro Bowler necessarily for what you've given him. But like, if he can give you what Tim Patrick gave you for 2026, 2027, 2028, that might be worth it, honestly. Even if he doesn't catch that second contract, I think you'd make this move with the intention that he's going to be here long term, that he's going to be here beyond his 4-year contract. But if he gives you like solid 15 to 17 games a year of doing everything that Tim Patrick did last year, I think that he accomplished his primary goal here. One more on this one, and this is tying into news that broke this morning. Would you rather use the draft capital spent to get Pickens or TeSlaa? George Pickens, of course, traded to the Dallas Cowboys this morning for a 3rd round, and then I think a swap of future 5th and 6th. So basically just a little bit under a 3rd round pick.
I think the Lions would rather have TeSlaa. I don't think Pickens is a great fit for what they want to accomplish. There's been some questions about effort. As a player, I like him as a player. I liked him at Georgia. I thought he had upside. But he has a lot of very questionable moments on the field when it comes to effort. And I don't think that would sit well in Detroit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a question that the Lions would rather have TeSlaa, and it's probably not even close. I mean, if they wanted another outside receiver that can bring, I mean, a lot. I mean, if we're just talking about the player himself and what he brings, like, there's no doubt that this year Pickens has a much higher ceiling than TeSlaa. Like, it's not close.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to figure in some other things, character being probably the main thing. The other thing is when you use that draft capital to get TeSlaa, you have him on a rookie contract for 4 years. With Pickens, he is on the final year of his rookie contract. So if the Cowboys are going to want to keep him around, he's going to suddenly become very expensive next year. And so give me the young developmental guy that fits your culture over the 1 year of a guy who has been a little bit of an annoyance. Like I always think, like, as much as some people in Pittsburgh have questions about their head coach, anytime Mike Tomlin says no thank you to a really good, talented player, I don't think I want that guy in my building either.
Well, let's also put some context on this as well. The rumors are, or what's being reported is that the Steelers were shopping him and looking for a day 2 pick, and no one was willing to give them that until Dallas did after the fact. And so it sounds like the Lions might have even had their opportunity to do it if they wanted to, just like most, any team probably. But they opted to go the route they did instead. So we'll see. We never know. Rumors are weird, but that's my guess.
All right, next question here comes from Ash Soden. Asks, with the strength of the roster currently, could the duo streaks of a UDFA making the 53-man roster every year and every Brad Holmes draft pick making the initial 53 be over? If not, who is the UDFA that is making the roster and who is losing out to Jackson or Lovett?
So we're talking about 8 guys making it in this scenario. So all 7 draft picks plus one UDFA. We talked in the PODD direct about the fact that there's probably 45 spots that are accounted for. Some of them being draft picks, right? Like so that leaves about 8 spots open for maybe 4 or 5 rookies competing for those spots, maybe 4 rookies. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. But there certainly is an opportunity to keep both of those streaks alive. The question will be if they decide to go heavy at a position they don't normally do. Like, let's say they decide to keep 5 safeties or 6, you know what I mean? Like they want to go a little bit heavier on the defensive backs. Well, that creates an opportunity for your Kennelly. If they want to keep 6 wide receivers and, then I mean they almost have to in this scenario. They have to keep 6. But they want to keep 4 tight ends, or maybe Priestcorn ends up, jumping up to tight end 3. Like, who knows?
Fullback.
So there's definitely opportunities. We'll see. Well, I mean, we'll see. He's definitely unique.
Sure.
But they have some unique UDFA players that I think bring some fun skills to the Lions that could sneak in, right? Like you said, if they're keeping 3 tight ends and then they want that fullback option, they want that H-back, well, then Horton becomes a valuable guy. If, there's a whole bunch of different scenarios, but I think the way it's set up now, if I were to make a 53, I would project all 7 draft picks in, and maybe the UDFA streak ends. Yeah. If I were to make a prediction today,
I think I'm in line with you there. There is a little bit of an asterisk to the question here. And I'm responsible for making this mistake as well. Technically, James Houston did not make the initial 53-man roster. But he obviously played in his rookie year.
He stuck around.
He stuck around. He made the practice squad, came back up from the practice squad. So technically, that's not a streak.
But he was promoted.
He was
so
on
the 50.
Changed
the way,
If you say every draft pick has made the Lions 53-man roster, that is technically correct. The initial 53 is incorrect.
There you go. Just lose the initial and you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, I don't know. Like, I did a little five things to know about Dan Jackson this morning. It's up on the site right now. And the more I read on that guy, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way he doesn't make the roster. Like, he is just such everything this culture is about. He has the special teams experience, his smarts. Like, I wrote in the article, like, I think he's going to eventually be the team's special teams captain. That is a role that is now vacant, right? Because Jalen Reeves-Maybin is no longer there. He has special teams captain written all over him.
Well, think of his path to go from a walk-on, a no-star recruit walk-on,
yes,
to at Georgia,
yes,
to then be a captain,
yes,
of Georgia by the time you exit. That's pretty remarkable.
Yes,
like it's not like it's like, oh, he was a walk-on at Wake Forest and away he go. You know, like no disrespect to Wake, but there's a difference between Wake and Georgia, and to get all the way up to that captain status there, I'm not putting a cap on where he can be a captain in the NFL either.
I think of the 7th round picks, he's far closer to a lock than Dominic Lovett is. Lovett is a tricky one, right? Because he is very limited in his skill set.
Sure.
He's fast, right? That's kind of his defining trait. He's only going to be a slot receiver.
Lots of gunner experience.
Yes, I mean, he has to win the gunner job, in my opinion. That is his one and only way of making the roster. There could be other guys that win that gunner job. They struggled to find him last year, and they already have one in Khalil Dorsey. Who's going to win that other job is the majority of the question. And I think you brought up too, like, they brought in 2 UDFAs. Because to me, the reason why I don't think both of these things will happen is because I think either a UDFA wide receiver will make it or Dominic Lovett will make it. I don't think both will happen, and I don't think there's not another UDFA that I think has a cleaner path in.
So it kind of hit me last night when I was thinking about the receivers. In our breakdowns, and we talked about which UDFA we thought might have the best chance of making the roster, and both of us in our write-up picked Jackson Meeks. And then it occurred to me last night that both Lovett and Meeks were on the Georgia team together 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And because that was the first year Lovett transferred in, and it was the last year before Meeks transferred out. And it's worth keeping in mind that Georgia picked Lovett for special teams. Georgia picked Lovett to be the guy on the field. And then the Lions, with an opportunity to draft Meeks, opted to draft Lovett. And so while I think Meeks is an interesting profile, and while I think he has the opportunity to challenge for a spot, it's very notable that both the Georgia staff and the Lions front office went with Lovett both times when debating between, and that's why I'm going to lean that way as well.
Sure.
Until I see them in late August and see where they've separated, I'm going to go with the Georgia coaching staff and Lions front office, who are smarter than I am.
Fair enough. All right. Next question here comes from Ryan Anton on Twitter. Asks, in 2026, who do you think plays mostly 3-tech and nose tackle out of Tyleik Williams and Aleem McNeil?
I think Aleem is the 3. I think he's gonna. That's the long-term potential for him. You paid him like he's going to be the 3. He's conformed his body. He has proven potential there. Tyleik plays the 3 because that's where Ohio State elected to deploy him. I think he'll start at the 3 in Detroit because of Aleem's injury, but I do believe the long-term position for Tyleik is at the 1. Now, keeping in mind that the Lions 1 is not always at the 1. They do shift that 1 out to a 3 on the opposite side. So, and I expect that he will be in that kind of boat. But for the most part, I think Williams is going to be the Lions' future 1, and Aleem will be the Lions' future 3.
I want to bring in Jason Krolik's question because it's kind of similar. It asks if Tyleik Williams can turn into Aleem 2.0, how will that change the defense? And it kind of rolls into my answer for both of these, which is I think they're going to be interchangeable a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the Lions are going to shy away from doing that. Aleem will play some nose. Yeah, Tyleik will play some nose. Mm-hmm. And you really don't know which is going to play which until you line up. And they could even shift, after they line up. Because, I mean, Brad kept saying that. Like, we see the developmental potential for him to grow into an Ali McNeil type of player. And then I asked him straight up, like, okay, what do you do once you have 2 Ali McNeils on the roster? And I think the first word out of his mouth was versatility. Like, we can switch things up. We can be unpredictable. We can throw this guy out there and then flip him on the next play. And I think that in change, especially like nose tackle is one of the most tiring positions in football, right? You're constantly taking on doubles, teams, you're 2-gappings. And so like it requires a lot of strength and balance and patience. And so I think by interchanging those guys every now and then, you're going to keep both of them fresher.
The trick is how fast does Williams take that step with this pass rush, right? It may be that it takes him 2 years, right? Because that's kind of what it took Ali before he really stepped into it. But if Williams can make that step quicker, that gives them more versatility earlier in the process. It's just a matter of, it's on Williams to set that situation up.
All right, we'll go one more here before we take our break. Grandpudge QB on Twitter asks, if by some miracle Davenport stays healthy, is he really good enough to be the starter opposite Hutch? What has he shown? Is he that good? Brad Holmes seems to think so.
Yeah. The uniqueness in Davenport is that he can play with his hand in dirt. He can stand up. He can drop. He can blitz. He can stop the run. He can set the edge, right? That's a complete package of things that they want opposite Hutchinson, because Hutchinson can do all those things too. Plus he can kick inside and he can, set the world on fire and get 1 million sacks and all that stuff. Right. But Davenport being able to do that collection of things allows them to not have to play the rotation game where you're like, oh, in this situation, it's got to be this guy or it's got to be that guy. He gives you, again, that flexibility, that versatility that we were just talking about. When we've been, Anthony and I have been going through the grit index and we've been reviewing past draft picks, and we've noticed a theme with every draft pick Brad Holmes has made over the last 5 off seasons, and it's intelligence and versatility and coachability. Like those are things that consistently show up. And so if a player comes in with that ability to do multiple things, they're going to be held in a higher regard for the Lions coaching staff and the Lions organization.
Yeah, and with Davenport, all you have to go back to week 1 quotes from the staff and what they thought about Davenport. He's violent. He's everything we're about on defense. He sets the edge. He does everything we want out of that spot opposite Aiden, right? And I understand it's been now 2 years since he's had any sort of production, and I think a lot of people even look at that last year that he had a fullish season and is like, oh, well, he had what, like 1.5 sacks or something, a very small number, and they're like, what are we doing here? That even when he's healthy, he's not good. I don't think that is an accurate assessment of his play, first of all. Second of all, I don't think it's an accurate depiction of what his strengths are, right? Like, his strength isn't as a pass rusher. This isn't like some bendy, hyper-athletic guy. I mean, he does have a lot of athleticism, don't get me wrong, but that's not how he wins. He wins with his violence. He wins with his strength. He wins with speed to power. And that sort of stuff did show up last year. It showed up in camp. It showed up in the couple games that he did play. And that's exactly what they want. Big, tall edge setter. And I know that's not the ideal candidate that a lot of Lions fans want. And this kind of bleeds into what will be our next question at the start of the next segment here. But when everyone thinks about a prototypical edge rusher, you think of the bendy, speedy guy who is going to just put the left tackle in a spin cycle and get to the quarterback. It's not what they want. I mean, they'll take it, but like a lot of things that they prioritize on defense, run defense is a high priority in what they do. Even with their cornerbacks, right? They need guys that can tackle. They need guys that'll play physical. Yeah, it's very much the same on the edge, and you could say maybe even leads to the amount of injuries that Marcus Davenport has gone through. It's because he plays so violent, because he welcomes collisions and violence. That's what makes him special to him. And so I think that maybe is part of the disconnect between Brad Holmes and fans and media, is just they really, really like Marcus Davenport, and fans and media really need to be sold on him. All right. And with that, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, more of your Detroit Lions questions as we get into a little bit of the schedule. We talk a little bit more about Edge. We talk about some more stuff as when we come back here on the Midweek Mailbag. We'll be right back. All right. We are in our break. We were more efficient than I think we've ever been, Erik. So
malpractice. We haven't spent that much time together, so it's good.
I didn't think it was finally going to click in year 5 of us working together, or whatever it's been. It's probably been about. Yeah. Is that what it was? 5, 4?
I think we are in year. I think it's been 4 full. Let me see. We were back in.
Yeah, because it was right after the Stafford trade, right? Like a month or so after the Stafford trade.
It's been 4 full years, and so we're into season 5.
Yeah. So we're gonna need some questions because I thought I had enough, and apparently we don't have enough.
Oh no, we'll be fine. What do we have? We have 3 more.
We have 3 more. We went through.
That's plenty.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then
but it was really 3 topics. It was really 3 topics,
I suppose. Shout out to the person who made the rehearsal reference on YouTube. Caleb did. Appreciate that. You're not watching that show, are you?
I watched season 1.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't seen any of season 2 yet. I like to watch them as a collective.
That's fine. My shaking of the head was not in disappointment of you. It's in
because you enjoy it. I know.
It's in it's in just disbelief of what is happening on that show. And Ryan and I have been. I usually watch it Monday morning ish. Ryan watches it Monday night, and so I'll just get a Slack message from him. Just Jeremy WTF, and I immediately know what he's talking about. Shout out to anybody who watches that show. I don't even know if I want it. It's Nathan Fielder. So if you know Nathan For You or, what was the?
Go watch season 1.
Show?
Go watch season 1.
Yeah, go watch season 1.
See if you like it. There was a
crazy.
There was a good community, from good community line from Sweaty Doofus. Midweek Mailbag in the morning.
I like it. I like it. Good. We need some mugs.
I knew you'd appreciate that community reference.
All right. Let me read this long message from, I always forget, Joe a Tiger, not Joe Eat Tiger. I think says, I mean this. Brad got slack on every pick. First one was because it was a reach, but every defensive tackle drafted in the first round was drafted ahead of the consensus. Nobody mentions that. Nobody mentions the fact that every guard drafted ahead of Tate Ratledge was also drafted way above the consensus. Finally, with TeSlaa, I think Detroit fans are ignoring the Broncos taking Bryant, another surprise pick, a few picks after TeSlaa, both sure-handed big receivers.
Yeah, with receivers, it's weird. Once you got past the second round, it very much became like dealer's choice. Like, right. What are you looking for? What do you like? And then things kind of went all over the map. And so that's like the first, I think there were 7 receivers that went in the first 2 rounds. And most of those guys were expected to go in the first 2 rounds. And then after that, the picks were coming from all over the place. The consensus board was thrown out. On my board, I see 3 consensus 5th round wide receivers that were all taken in the 3rd round.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It just all over the place.
But Iomenor, where he went in did he go in the
136
3rd?
In the 4th?
In the 4th.
Pick 136.
Which was
a guy,
weird one out of the bunch.
Right. He was a guy that I thought would go earlier. And most people thought he would go earlier. The consensus was around 95.
Yeah.
But I tell you, again, in my initial gut feeling when we did our post-draft articles about what we thought of the class, I had said that's the guy I wish the Lions maybe just stayed at 102 and picked. And then I started thinking more again about it. I was thinking about the wide receivers quite a bit yesterday, and
Keeps you up at night.
I was thinking, man, if anybody knows what this kid is capable of, it's David Shaw, who recruited him and coached him.
Yeah.
And David Shaw they probably went to him and said, give me
I would hope they went to him.
give me the lowdown on this guy. And he probably went, yeah, this is what he's got. And they probably assessed a fourth round value. Obviously they liked him less than TeSlaa.
But the only thing he could have really, I mean, maybe, I'm sure he still has connections to Stanford, but I don't think he ever really saw him play in a full-time role, right? He just recruited him.
Correct. But we're talking about, I mean, he also, look, let's not pretend like he doesn't have connections to Stanford either.
Right. I said that.
Right. So I'm sure Shaw gave them a very good profile on what he was and gave him, and they probably walked away with knowing him as well as they knew anybody else. So it was a bit surprising because I thought stylistically he was a very good fit.
Yeah. And to go back to Joe's overall question there, like, you know, I did that article on Brad Holmes and reaches, right? And I basically said, like, these, like, 10 to 15 pick reaches by the consensus big board, I have no problem with him. He's actually, in general, regarded pretty well in those situations, right? When you look at some of the small reaches that he's made, generally speaking, they've turned out just fine.
I tell you, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Like, so when you look at the first two picks, Ratledge, which maybe went like 5 to 10 picks early. When you look at Tyleek, maybe went 10 to 15 picks early. Not a big deal. It's the 100 pick swing, right? Where that is where he hasn't fared particularly well. And I'm not saying the big board, consensus big boards are the end all be all. But I think you also do them a little disservice when you're like, well, who cares what Mel Kiper thinks? That's why it's a consensus big board. So that when you have someone like Mel Kiper who maybe you don't trust, he's weighed out. The outliers don't make as much of a difference when you have a consensus big board of 200 people. And again, these are all 200 people. They're media members. They don't have the same information that the teams do. But there's also been studies that have been done on big boards and found that they're oftentimes just as accurate, if not more, than NFL general managers are at recognizing talent. And so it's easy to dismiss them and say, medium doesn't know anything. But I think there's at least a little bit to it. And it's more important to me to point out that every time Brad Holmes has gone 80 to 100 picks outside of the consensus big board, that is when he's gotten himself into trouble, which is why I think the TeSlaa pick stands alone compared to the other first two picks.
The thing with TeSlaa is that his projections were way all over the map.
Yeah.
A guy like Todd McShay had him at 270, whereas Jeremiah had him at 95. Like, that's almost like 200 point difference. Like, there's a handful of guys in this class that had these wild swings. All right. But I want to point something out that I didn't recognize until Joe said this. And there were 12 interior defensive linemen taken on day 1 and 2 collectively. Every single one was taken before the consensus. All 12. All 12 were considered reaches according to the consensus board on all 12 defensive tackles.
Consensus board? What board?
Any of them. I mean, like, I'm sure I didn't compare them to necessarily Aleem's, but like when you look at I'm looking at like mine, and there's big gaps between where they were picked. Like Kenneth Grant on my board was 27. I think that's close to where he was on the consensus. My numbers are always pretty close to consensus, but he went 13. You know what I mean? Like he was way ahead, right? Yep. I mean, I can compare them all, but like, this is just me kind of looking. Like, some of them were not close. Like Omar Norman Lott, like he had projections from anywhere from 27 to 224, right? Or Yeah. So like again, a 200-point gap between a couple of different analysis. The average on him was around like 100, 111 or something like that, right? He went pick 63. Like so defensive tackle, it seems in general, was undervalued by the media, even though we were told this is a deep defensive tackle class. A lot of defensive tackles are going to go early. We heard that all offseason, yet the NFL still seemed to show that they were even more valuable than what the analysts were taking. So it's an interesting point I hadn't noticed, I guess, from Joe.
Yeah. All right, let me get to some alerts, and then we'll answer some more of your questions. And if I get one that I really like, I'll save it for the show. The Dizzy Wizard, thank you for the 14 months. Throw some side eyes in the chat. What's the side eye emote? Chat, someone throw some side eye emotes in the chat. I don't remember what that looks like. Who's giving the side eye? 21 Kizzle, thank you for the 10 months. Says the main show. I don't know what that is, but thank you for the 10 months.
That's this show. This
What
is
show?
the main. This one. The one we're currently on.
Which one?
It's not behind a paywall. When it's not behind a paywall, it's the main show.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's the Zazu side eye. Kylo Den, thank you for the 8 months subscribed to the channel. Appreciate you. Disaster Daster. Thank you for the first time subscription using that Twitch Prime, which, hey, I haven't done this pitch in a while. If you're over on YouTube, or maybe you're on Twitch, you can come over to Twitch for a second, create a free profile. If you have Amazon Prime, if you're already subscribed or one of your family members is subscribed and you have access, you can link that to your Twitch account in the settings, connections, that part of your profile. And that allows you to subscribe to one Twitch channel every single month for free. And that's a way to support us in a way that doesn't cost you a penny, but puts a little bit of extra money in our pocket. So if you've always wanted to super chat or donate or whatever in any sort of way, this is a way that you can kick some support to us. It doesn't cost you a single dime, just 5 minutes.
Gets rid of the commercials.
And right? Yeah, it also gets rid of the commercials on Twitch if you want to watch us on Twitch. And yeah, it doesn't auto renew. So if you did it last month, you're going to have to resub again. You just click the sub button and then use your Twitch Prime.
It gives you a reminder.
Yeah. Anyways, Laser Mouse, 21 months. There's an FTB in the chat. So any reason we're FTBing the Bears this morning? Just because it's Wednesday? Why not?
Yeah.
There doesn't need to be a reason. JPook, 31 months, says Holmes took a look at TeSlaa and thought, I bet this guy can play edge. I mean, maybe. He's tall and fast.
Got the length.
He probably has the bend.
Yeah. Aggression.
Yeah. Healthy Sweater, 46 months subscribed to the channel. Appreciate you. Austin Mammoth, 32 months, says, ooh, my favorite. It's the early bird special mailbag extravaganza premium plus, not direct, main show.
That should be it.
Can you imagine me trying to say that every show?
Yes, I could. It'd be highly entertaining.
Arnick, 49 months, says, what are the odds TeSlaa has a significant impact in his first year? Will they give him reps with Goff in training camp?
I think they will because it's inevitable. Tim Patrick will take some time off, and I believe he will be the guy who steps into that role. It's possible they use Khalif there because they value the veteran, but I think at some point we're going to see TeSlaa getting peppered by Goff. And yeah, it could be in the slot because they want to be creative with that option. Could be at the X where most believe his long-term position is. Yeah,
I do think he'll get plenty of reps with Goff in training camp. You and I have kind of gone back and forth on what we think his offensive role will be in year one. I tend to think it'll be quite minimal unless there's an injury. You think they'll give him at least some sub-package stuff, and then it could grow into a significant role?
I think his blocking alone gets him on the field, right? Yeah. And so I think he's going to get I think I've said anywhere from 8 to 12 That's been my guess, and I think there's opportunity to grow into more. But boy, they really like Tim Patrick, and he brings a ton to the table. At the same time, I think they're going to want to manage him so that he's available all season, and and you have a healthy, rested Tim Patrick for the playoffs.
Lafayette Love, thank you for the follow over on Twitch. And Steel Lion, thank you for the 28 months, who says, hi guys, when is training camp? We don't have those dates yet. Generally, it's
Not
at
yet.
the end of July. It's probably fair to assume it's going to be a little bit earlier than that because the Hall of Fame game is late July. So
My
mid-July is
projection,
probably-
my projection before the Hall of Fame game was announced
yeah.
was the 23rd. That was my projection. Now my guess was they would report on the 22nd and then start on the 23rd. And the reason I make that projection is because of how the acclimation period works. They have to have 5 acclimation days before they can they have to have 5 acclimation days and a day off, and then they can start pads. And so my guess was, based on what they've done in previous seasons, they come in on the 22nd, which would be they do their qualifying tests, their fitness tests, stuff like that. 4 days, Wednesday through Saturday, day off Sunday, start pads on Monday. That was my guess. Now with the Hall of Fame game, it's all out the window. Like, you might just move that whole back a whole week.
Right.
It may just move back like 3-4 days. It's really kind of unpredictable at this point. So I would guess anywhere from the 15th to the 20th is when they start.
Yeah.
That would be my best guess.
That sounds about right. And it's worth noting, in case you didn't see, that the Lions significantly reduced this offseason program that's happening right now. They got rid of mandatory minicamp completely, which on a personal level is a bummer because that was 3 days of practice we usually get to see at this point in the year, and those are valuable for us. Now we're essentially limited to 3 total practices that we get to see. Rookie minicamp and 2 weeks of OTAs. I'm going to miss one of the weeks of OTAs. So I'm only going to witness 2 practices this offseason before training camp, which is a bummer. And they also are only doing 2 weeks of OTAs, which normally they do 3 with an option of a 4th. And the 4th is typically just for rookies or young players.
Yeah. Normally it's 7 practices we get. Now we get 3. So big cutback. At the same time, I think we get those made up. Those 4 days will be made up in the fall because we're going to get an earlier start.
I guess that's technically true. Yeah. And the Lions are also, they're giving us more media availability, like more pressers in the upcoming weeks as a way to kind of offset from that from a media standpoint. It's not the same, but it's a little bit of a bummer.
Sure. Yeah. We're going to have to just be patient and speculate a little bit more and just create some more tension and surprise and anxiety.
It's just like from a consumer standpoint, I know you guys love practice observations. You guys are a little less enthusiastic about, what did this position coach say?
Right.
And I'm with you. That stuff is less interesting to me. It's not uninteresting, but it's less interesting.
Yeah, but again, at the same time, you get a few more of those in the fall or the spring, summer. I always say fall because in my mind, when training camp starts, it's fall.
It feels like
even though it's mid-July.
Right. Who are you most excited to watch during mini camps? I feel like maybe we save that one for the show.
All right.
Because rookie mini camp is 2 days away. And it's worth noting, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here, rookie minicamp runs 3 days. We get 1 day of media access, and that's going to be Friday.
Uh-oh. I don't know if that was allowed.
Sue me.
Uh-oh.
I think that's fine.
Amen on line 1.
Yeah, so have you figured out your own availability?
I'm working on it. The tough part is it's the end of the school year.
Yeah.
And so there's like a mountain of things that are coming down. my way with all the kids, and so typically I don't get to go to any of them unless they're on a weekend, and it doesn't look like they're going to be on a weekend based on what they've kind of let out to the on when they're going to have their practices and stuff. So it's going to be much tougher for me with the times and days that they have. Yeah. So I will probably be like most people and end up waiting till the summer/fall. We'll see though. Maybe I can pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Will Wingo be ready to start the season if he and McNeil start the season injured? I think that might give Martin one last lifeline. Maybe. I think he's most likely going to be ready because he did talk to the media right at the end of the season, and it wasn't
that.
And yeah, he basically said like he was 5-6 months away in January. So theoretically speaking, he might start training camp on the pup, but I think there's a good chance he comes off it before the start of the season.
Yeah, that lines up with what my expectations.
Yeah. It's not, he didn't suffer, I always forget what the exact injury was, but it wasn't a torn ACL. I know a lot of people point to him and McNeil and put him in the same bag, but they were different injuries, even though I think they happened like back-to-back weeks. There's a Detroit Lions article that I looked back and referenced. Maybe I'll do it right now. McHigh. Torn meniscus.
Yeah, so MCL.
MCL.
And that's one of those where it's like, an MCL is one of those things where it's like, is it really a tear, or like it's not, like it's one of those things that heals on its own typically. Yeah. Like, is that not what David Montgomery had as well? Wasn't his an MCL, or am I thinking was his a PCL? Torn, I forget which one it was. Yeah, it was stressed.
Yeah. But I don't know if everyone has been. What?
I was going to say that shows the window of recovery is pretty wide.
Mm-hmm. Right, and he says he's looking to be back football activities by June and ready to go at the start of training camp at the end of July. So it'll be close, but I think the expectation is he'll be ready. If you've been following along with the photo galleries of their offseason workouts, some notable faces are there. Like I saw Derek Barnes was there. Not that that's a surprise because I think he was getting close to by the end of the season, but Derek Barnes is there. Dave Montgomery is there. Yeah, I don't know who else, but like, I don't think
the big questions for me. The big questions for me are Aleem, Malcolm, and Dorsey. Those are the ones that I'm the most.
Did I see Dorsey? There was something I saw with Dorsey. I think maybe it was from his Instagram. Boy, he was just running around.
Yeah, I would expect that. I wouldn't expect him to be at camp because remember, he has a similar injury to Hutch that happened like a month and a half, 2 months later. So I would expect he's at the I can start working out phase, but it's going to take him a while to get everything back in order and hopefully get that speed back that makes him so valuable.
I'm fairly certain he had posted on Instagram recently that like he was running change of direction and all that sort of stuff too. So he's getting closer.
Malcolm it's the timing of when his ACL was, right? So that's what we're waiting on with him. Was his ACL was post Aleem or close to Aleem. So maybe it was earlier. Maybe it was I feel like it was like week 11. But yeah, it puts a little bit of a question on him. What we talked about in the past was Malcolm is lighter.
Yep.
And that goes a long way, and a little bit younger, and that goes a long way to helping. I mean, I think Aleem's age will certainly help him as well, though.
Malcolm and Wingo went on IR in the same week. Aleem was after that.
Okay. But they're all real close, right?
Couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any other significant injuries that I'm like worried about.
No. But is Aiden Hutchinson holding out? That's the name of this video on
Shut
YouTube.
Don't click it.
He hasn't been at OTAs, Erik. Why
He's
not?
recovering from a broken leg.
But he's cleared. We saw that video of him running around.
Oh,
he said at the Masters like it was one more week and then he was out.
I don't know.
Why isn't he there? Is he demanding too much money?
Oh, he should be. He absolutely should be.
Sorry. I'm not gonna name names, but there's just this one Detroit sports YouTube page out there that just makes like the biggest, boldest headlines in their YouTube videos, and it's just like, do people fall for that? Like, are people really?
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
I'm sure they're clicking it, but like, don't you eventually lose your credibility by like every single like, you won't believe what Brad Holmes said about this guy, like, and it's like, oh, he's a good player. Oh, okay, cool. I don't know.
I mean, you would think, but there's a lot of people out there that seem to, maintain their credibility despite wild claims about ridiculous things. The shiny new toys that they're like, ooh, I like this. I like shiny things. Shiny things are the best. They must. Let's make the shiny things the most important thing, even though we know that's not really how it is.
Yeah. Anyways, I know that's something that like Miko, who, if you don't know, runs our YouTube page, has always talked to me about a lot. Like he's very careful in not becoming that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oops. Dan has a question. If you were Zadarius, when would you sign with the team this offseason? August.
Yeah, right? Like after training camp.
Like, yeah, right. Give me a couple weeks. Of training camp.
Not only does that make it so you don't have to go through training camp, which, in case you don't know, players generally hate.
Yes. But he's smart enough to know he needs a little bit of time to acclimate.
Sure. But at the same time, there's a greater chance that a team might be a little bit more desperate the deeper you get into training camp.
Sure.
Right? Like someone's going to get injured.
Possible, for sure.
So yeah, I think that's probably a realistic timeline. Maybe he does it at the beginning of training camp, but I think there's just like, there's no deadline for him. And so a lot of people are like, well, does this mean he's not getting any offers? Does this mean no one's interested? And I think the answer to that is no. I think he's just reached that point where he's just like, I'm going to join a team when I want to. And right now I don't want to. I'm having fun with what's her name and going on trips.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Visiting Detroit,
yeah.
Wearing Detroit t-shirts in a Detroit rain.
Having people yell at him to sign at him in public.
I think he likes it though.
He seems like he does.
Yeah, look, it's amazing to me that every place he leaves, it's walking away with the burning bridge behind him. And then this place, he's like, hey, I'm going to stick around this bridge here for a while and see what's up.
If I have Cashtel as a girlfriend, y'all wouldn't see me. Fair. MJ Kimball, thank you for the 57 months subscribed on Twitch, and Mike Lang, 14 months subscribed on Twitch. Appreciate y'all. Almost up to 300 subs again. We should probably change that sub goal, because let's be honest, ever since we opened the floodgates to YouTube, I think we've lost some of our Twitch subscriptions to YouTube, which is not a complaint at all. You guys watch us wherever is most convenient to you.
Convenient, yeah.
I'm cool with that.
There was another question from Ducklion33. Did you see that?
I didn't. What's the floor ceiling predictions for Hassanein? I'm hoping it for Deshaun Hand without the injuries.
Do you want to answer that on the now or later?
we can, you know, we can bring that in too. Why not?
All right.
Let's put that here. Great. I hate all the articles that say Lions predicted to. Yeah, those are pretty bad. There's one website that they don't even say predicted. They're just like, say, Lions trading for CeeDee Lamb. Like, and then when you get and click it, it's like, well, this person said that the Lions might be interested in.
Are interested, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, how?
And they always cite the most reputable sources as well, I've noticed.
Uh-huh. 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 I don't want to name names though. I honestly don't. Because it doesn't do me any good.
I want to name names, but
you want to, but you won't.
I'll play along. It'll be nice.
Joe, we have a question similar to that, I think. Wait, what just happened? Okay. You know, actually we don't. I thought we did, but we don't really.
Well,
So
now you're getting in the weeds here.
We're going to talk about the schedule, but I think we can talk about Joe's question here, who asks simply, what's the best result for the Lions on schedule release day? So I'm going to rephrase this as like, what's the one thing you want to see out of Lions schedule? Or two things. It can be more than one.
Dude, I'm unlucky in that, so I don't know if I want to.
That's right. The clip of you saying, I just don't want the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1.
Yeah. And then boom! Right in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it worked out.
I mean,
turns out I was wrong.
The easy answer is late bye week, right? Please.
I think, yeah. I have something that I definitely don't want to see. I'll save it though.
What's one? Give me a thing you do want to see. I've been asked a couple times, and I don't have a good answer for it because, quite honestly, I don't care. But a lot of people are like, "Who do you want to be the 1 week opponent, the week 1 opponent?"
Oh, I don't know.
I don't really care. Like, in general, I'd prefer it to be, you know, one of those. Just stick as many outdoor away games in September as you can. So, you want to play the Eagles week 1? Fine. You want to play the Commanders week 1? Sure. Let's get that revenge game out of the way. Chiefs, again? Sure. I don't care. Ravens? Maybe.
No. I don't want to see the Ravens in week 1.
I don't want to see that game at all, to be quite honest. Just because of what happened last time the Lions played there.
Yeah, no. I saw, I think it was Good Morning Football, or was maybe one of the other ones on NFL Network that were projecting what week 1 matchup would you like to see. And one of them said, give us the NFC championship game that everyone wanted and put Lions and Eagles right out the gate. Just let them punch each other. And I'm like, that would be fun, but at the same time, I don't know if they would hand the Lions the Hall of Fame game and then hand them
a primetime game.
Well, because Philly is going to be that Thursday game, right? They're gonna kick off football, right. And so, man, I don't know if they would they put the Lions in to kick off both preseason and regular season. I don't know if they do that.
Yeah, but and JC brings up another point that I've heard people say is like, bring on Ben Johnson week 1.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's
the best case.
Yeah, honestly, like you probably want to get that team
in
while
Chicago.
They're still figuring out Ben Johnson's offense, right?
In Chicago, week 1, 52-7.
That is like the one thing that I think the Lions haven't gotten great luck on is like these teams that are rebuilding. Like I would love to play in Minnesota, in Chicago early in the season because you're catching those teams with your JJ McCarthy in his first few starts. and then Ben Johnson in his first few weeks as head coach. Like, get those teams that are just getting like something major off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like. I wanted that last year against the Bears.
That's it.
Turned out just fine.
That's what I'm gonna go with. I'm spoiler for the show. That's what I'm gonna go with. That's better than my other one. So my other one was the thing I'm looking forward to is hopefully that I get to stay married and the Lions don't play on Christmas.
They're not.
Oh,
right?
Man. Dude, if I'm gone on Thanksgiving and Christmas, you are going to need to set up a bed on your couch for me because I am going to get
you and Zazu can share.
Big trouble. Dude, she's gonna be so mad. And I'm like, I didn't want to I'm like, I don't want to tell her that there's 3 games now instead of 2. I'm like, oh my God.
Let me ask you this. Is there any chance you're just not going to go to the game?
Oh yeah, yes. Yes. 100% yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's an away game, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. If it's a home game, yeah, sorry. I might not be going to that because
I'll have all the Christmas ham on my own.
My wife she loves to host and she loves to have people over, and the 2 holidays, we have 3 holidays. There's 3 holidays where we host everybody. We host the family. And they don't play on 4th of July. And the other 2 that she absolutely loves more than anything are Thanksgiving and Christmas. And every Thanksgiving, I have it to reluctantly sulk out the door and just be like, I'm sorry, I'll be back soon. And then like, if they have a Christmas game, no, that's probably going to be it. I'm probably not going to make it.
I don't think they're going to do that to the Lions. I really don't.
Gosh, let's hope Rod Wood is right.
I know Rod Wood left the door open. Mm-hmm. And some people I think ran with that as like, the Lions are going to get Christmas and Thanksgiving. I think the message I got was like, it's possible, but unlikely.
Can you imagine if it's like Lions, Eagles, Christmas with number 1 seed playoff potential? And then I'm like, that would be brutal. That would be brutal.
Yeah.
To cover.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lions won the NFC North.
A lot of games.
Was that on Christmas? It was on Christmas Eve, wasn't it? When they beat the
I don't
Vikings?
think it was Christmas Eve. I think it was the 20. It might have been
the 23rd.
I don't think it was Christmas Eve. I think it might have been a little bit before, like the day before or something. I forget. But yeah. I believe I watched one of the Christmas Day games and I had it on in the background because that was when people were over, when the family was over. But I don't think I watched any of the game because I was, socializing and playing with the children and, stuff dads do, cleaning up wrapping paper as quickly as possible. Stereotypical dad stuff. Mm-hmm. And, but I don't think I actually watched that much of it. Like, it seems like a waste.
I boycotted it. I literally did.
No.
How many there was?
I don't think it worked. Because they had massive ratings.
I boycotted it because it was on Netflix, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
No, I don't support this. And
I
canceled my
Netflix.
I canceled Netflix as soon as it said that they were in the running for 1:00 games. I'm like, nope. And I think I told you this. Like, I've gotten to the old man point in my career where it's like when I cancel something, and it says, "Can you explain to us why? Can you give us some feedback on why you canceled?" I start rubbing my hands together and go, "Well, let me tell you."
I tell you what, they probably had a meeting about you.
I think
they probably
they did.
Were like, "Man, we lost a very important client."
I'm sure I didn't sound like a crazy person. They're like, Oh no, this one guy who's obsessive about football is mad at us. But yeah, no. I think what happened is I literally turned it on when Beyonce came out and then turned it off at halftime. I turned it on for the halftime show and I got out once halftime was over.
I didn't see any of that. I heard it was fun, but
It was a little fun,
I didn't.
yeah.
I missed it.
But anyways, that's my old man take. Elwood, thank you for subscribing using your Twitch Prime for another first-time Twitch Prime subscriber. Appreciate you, Elwood.
Nice.
It was Christmas Eve, by the way.
No.
Boom.
Didn't feel like it.
I remember us recording Pride of Detroit Direct that night, and I believe it bled into Christmas morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
I guess it wasn't that formative of a memory for you. That's fine.
not the day. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I used to be the guy that like the kids were unwrapping the wrapping paper, and as they were like unwrapping it and getting ready to throw it on the ground, I was like the dad that like put the bag like underneath their arm, like so. It's always like, and I've tried to get away from that, trying to be more flexible, just leave it a little longer.
How's that working out for you?
Oh, not well because no one else cleans it up. So like, then it's like, hey, Dad, where is this little tiny piece that goes with my 2 Barbie dolls, not 30 Barbie dolls, but the 2 that they get?
Careful.
No, I'm just making a joke.
Careful. That is
I'm just
the closest
joking.
you've dipped your toe into that in a while.
I was just being silly. It was on Saturday Night Live. I didn't even see the other thing, but I saw the Colin rant, which I thought was funny.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, but it's a Saturday Night Live reference. It wasn't political. Come on now. But yeah, I lost where I was going. Something about wrapping paper, but I'm done.
All right.
Let's yell about how the Bears are terrible again. Let's go back to
that. Kyle Brandt still in on the Steelers. Confused, but in. How can you be in on the Steelers right now? This is the closest thing they've been like to admitting they're in a rebuild in a while. Right? And here's a bigger question.
I've given up on trying to like. I used to like. I'd like Mike Tomlin, and I have always had a little soft spot for the Steelers.
I agree.
But like, I can't. I know they're gonna end up signing the devil, and so I'm not. But I'm ready to just write them off. They're gonna be out of my will.
I know Aaron Rodgers is not the most logical man in the world. But how can he look at that roster and be like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want this to be how I go out in the NFL. Well,
now I said it on Twitter. They got room for Randall Cobb now. They're probably going to trade for Romeo Doubs, and it's going to look a lot better. It's going to look a lot better. It's going to be a lot more appealing to a 39-year-old lunatic who can't throw the football anymore and likes to throw people under the bus instead.
I'm excited.
He's more accurate. He's more accurate throwing his teammates under the bus than he is actually throwing the ball at them.
He's better at throwing tantrums than footballs.
Dude. I feel like nobody watched him play last year.
They watched the very last game. That's what they watched.
Isn't that the one where he was terrible?
No.
Or was it the one before?
Let me go back. I don't know why, but I'm going to go back and see. Because I thought they won pretty significantly. No, he had a good last game. He went 23 of 36 for 274, 4 touchdowns and an interception. His other game against Miami, I think, was a joke. Where was that one? Let me see if I can find that one. He had a lot of yards. Let me just look at his game log real quick. Yeah, I think it's down the stretch. He was a little bit better. Wait, no.
No, he was not. One of his last games, he was awful.
You're right. You're thinking of the Buffalo game. So Buffalo, he went 12 of 18 for 112 yards and 2 interceptions.
Oh, God.
A QBR of, get this, QBR, not passer rating.
Yeah.
1.1.
Yep. Good. Yep. Definitely worth the $45 million that he's getting paid from the Jets to not be on the roster. My God. How is that not a red flag? You're so bad. I'm willing to take a $45 million bath to not have you play for us because you're so awful. Oh, but he used to be good. Yeah. The Bears used to have Refrigerator Perry and played in the Super Bowl, but that ain't happening anymore.
The Lions used to be bad.
now I just earlier I just casually was like, oh yeah, they want Tim Patrick to be ready for the playoffs. Like it's just done. It's just written in stone,
right?
That's where they're going to be at this point. 3 years ago, we would have been like, maybe they can get to the playoffs. I hope. Now it's like, yeah, I wonder if he'll be ready for the NFC Championship game because that's what the expectations are. It's a lunatic world we live in now.
Right. We were talking in the POD cast during a break. We were just like, is 12-5 going to be a disappointing season? and then I think at one point we had to stop ourselves and be like, hold on a second. First of all, that means they're probably making the playoffs, and that's kind of the only thing that matters with the regular season now, right? Is like we've now recognized that the 1 seed is not that important, and so the success of this year will be defined by how they perform in the playoffs, not how many wins they tally in the regular season.
The only thing the 1 seed's good for is our pocketbook, man. That's the best thing the 1 seed is.
Right. No travel.
Yeah. Saves us a bunch of money.
Yes. So
do that again.
Do that again,
please.
But
yeah.
We know it doesn't necessarily change how things are going to look in the postseason.
Sure.
If you're looking for cues, and speaking of the Jets, what are your expectations for Aaron Glenn? Why does it seem like the Lions fans want to root for him and not Johnson? Is it because it seems like Ben changed as a head coach and is now doing a Campbell impression? No, it's because he went to the Bears. That's 99% of it is that he went to the Chicago Bears.
There's layers to this though. But yes, he goes to the Bears. He made awful jokes where he made fun of Lions players unintentionally, just trying to be silly. But I thought, I don't know. I thought he said something about somebody else too.
Well,
but
he was talking about how Penei Sewell had sometimes threw it better than Jared Goff.
Right, and but I thought there was another incident too. Maybe I'm just wrong.
The other incident was just him talking about how nice it is to have a quarterback who can get out the pocket.
There you go. And then another Goff slight. And then,
by the way, Aaron Glenn said something very, very similar, and no one cared because he went to the.
He has to, he has to because he has a mobile quarterback, legit, and that's
yes.
I like.
What are you talking? So does Ben Johnson.
I don't know. He's all right.
I'm telling you, as soon as he went to the Bears, every single thing he did was negative in Lions fans' eyes. Every single thing went through the lens of now he's with the Bears. I hate him.
Oh, certainly. But I do think there was more of him stumbling in the media than with Glenn. Glenn hasn't stumbled in the media. Glenn looks like a Dan Campbell clone, which is kind of what we expect from a coordinator. And he also looked the devil in the eye and told him to get lost.
He stuck
like,
it to Aaron Rodgers.
Also,
yes,
that's another huge thing. Like,
right.
Look,
but I think
go to
my
the other
point
conference, stick it to Aaron Rodgers, look like Dan Campbell, and yes, everyone loves you now.
But
that's that's the key.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it all depends on everything from the Lions fans' point of view is different from everyone else's, because a lot of people looked at that Aaron Rodgers story and was like, wow, they didn't even let him talk about the team. They didn't even let him give them some advice. But Lions fans hate Aaron Rodgers so much that they're like, good, F that guy.
I don't know if people hate Aaron Rodgers, but
you don't think Lions fans hate Aaron Rodgers?
Okay, that's another example of a joke not landing properly.
But I will admit this, right? Like, and this is something that I think we said from the onset. When it comes to displaying leadership qualities, Aaron Glenn has always been better than Ben Johnson at that.
Yes.
And that is the only part of the job that either of them have done so far. And I think it's fair to say that most people think Ben Johnson is doing a worse job at that than Aaron Glenn. I don't think either of them have done a bad job, but because some of the things that Ben Johnson said have been perceived as slights to the Lions.
I also don't like the fact that there looks like there's a potential disconnect with the GM and the coach, and it's easier. Like, who knows, right? Like, that room looks very awkward. Like, I don't know if you paid attention to that war room in Chicago, but that first night was super awkward. Like, we all have to admit that, right? Like, everybody was like quiet as a school mouse. And then there was no enthusiasm from the GM, and then over enthusiasm from Ben, who made it more about him than he did Colston Lovelace the third or whatever his name is, right? And thank you. And then the second night that they showed him, they showed that war room, everybody, like, it seemed like they were waiting, and then when the camera was on, they all like celebrated. They were like, it was like they were trying to make up for the awkwardness from day one. I was like, oh, that's fun. That's doesn't look staged at all. It just certainly does. And I'm sure I'm looking through them with my Honolulu blue glasses, but like, I still think it's just very awkward. Like, look,
who has the most awkward war room?
Arizona?
No, the Dallas Cowboys. They do this thing. They like they all no they do they do the clapping, but like,
after the
they
fact.
get everyone to like slam on the table, and it is very much like one of us. Like, it's very weird and creepy and cultish.
Like McConaughey's going to come out and start doing the chest beating thing.
That's right. Yes. Yes. The primal grunts.
There's a lot of weird war rooms out there.
Yeah.
There's some that are.
And listen, I think we can also poke at least a little bit of fun at the Lions, because like some of the stuff they do is a little corny, right? Can we admit that?
Sure, absolutely. But I don't think there's not a perfect war room. You know what I mean? And they all have different approaches, and we've seen how different approaches work. And so, but
what the Lions are doing, like, it strikes me as they're actually having fun with it, right? Like, this, it seems genuine in its corniness, if that makes sense. Because again, like, the one thing being close to this team as much as I have now, since Brad and Dan have taken over, is like every like the happiness and the togetherness and like the harmony between front office and coaching staff, that all feels very genuine to me. That is not anyone faking it.
Yeah.
So like when they all decide to put on Dan Campbell jerseys, I think like they all do think that's fun and cool and silly.
Well, they also donate those to charity and stuff like that too, so that's part of it.
Yeah.
But you can see it with certain combinations. Like, you used to be able to see it with Schneider and Pete Carroll in Seattle, right? When they were rolling with their drafts. And like that connection worked for a really long time. It's just it's a lot easier to pick out the ones where you're like, oh, that doesn't look like it's going to work.
But you can also like, it's also feeling each other out too, right? Like it's not like I would say Holmes and Campbell connected uniquely fast.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's going to take a while for that chemistry to build. So whatever you might perceive coming out of Chicago, remember that they've only been on the job together for 2 months, 3 months, whatever.
It's terrible. It's going to explode. It's implosion. It's going to be fun to watch. And that's sad because I like Ben. I like Ben personally. I think he's a great coordinator. I just don't see it working out.
Yeah, I'm sure you're very sad about it.
Oh, I mean, I like Ben as a person, so I'm sad for him that 3 years from now he will be unemployed, but he will be a highly coveted offensive coordinator. He'll get another job. Yeah, he'll get another job. Well, he'll make it 2.5, and then they'll fire him midway. But
so they've opened the floodgates on that now.
Oh, now, yeah. Now, next year, Green Bay is going to draft another wide receiver in the first round. All these things have changed now.
Yeah,
the Lions are the best team in the North, and the other teams don't know what to do. They're like, we have to change everything. We have to change everything. Let's draft receivers.
What does Minnesota need to do? Does that mean they're going to win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl?
No. Come on.
How do they change? Like, what's Minnesota's weird, like, defining feature that they now have to switch up because the Lions are good?
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
They're just not relevant enough, is what you're saying.
I don't know. Maybe they
have a defining feature.
Maybe they'll not. Yeah, right. Maybe they won't let the clock expire on the rest of their draft picks from now on. I don't know. You've seen them do that before.
I mean, hey, it almost happened to the Jaguars this year when they were trading with the Lions.
Almost.
Who's the one who wrote that story, by the way?
Oh, I don't know. Some jackwagon or something, I think. I don't remember.
Say what you will about the author. He managed to find himself in a pretty cool opportunity on draft weekend.
Oh, you mean The Athletic was smart in assigning where people should be located? Oh, okay. Good for The Athletic.
Stop.
No, I'm not giving
credibility to the writer for being able to finagle his way into that room.
None. Zero credit. Zero. Zero.
We're getting super salty, Erik, today. I love it. Granted, I poked the bear there myself, so. Yeah. All right, let's get back into the show, I think.
All right, well, now that you got me all like,
exactly.
I'm sweating. I now have to take a breath.
What's your out? Is it 11:30, 11:45?
11:30.
Okay.
11:30, 11:35 would be pushing it.
Okay.
I should be in the car at 35, ideally.
Okay. We good then. And we are back here on the Midweek Mailbag answering your Detroit Lions questions. Kind of want to finish up our discussion here on the defensive line here. Got a question here from Between the Numbers Anthony, our good friend who helped us with the Grit Index. Thanks again to Anthony. Asks, is the disconnect between Brad Holmes and fans/media about edge rooted in differing desires? Fans see a void in pass rushers, but the Lions have depth layered in edge setters. Given market scarcity, finding an edge who can both pass rush and set the edge is hard. Brad opts for the latter, being setting the edge over pass rush.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this with the Marcus Davenport question, right? He is coveted by the Lions because he has the ability to do both. A lot of players in the NFL don't. They specialize in one or the other, and like Anthony says, they do opt for the edge setters because stopping the run is more important to them. You stop the run first on your way to the pass, on the way to creating pressure, and that's how they want to live their defense, right? They go man coverage, they press, they limit the targets, and that ideally allows that defensive line time to execute both the run stop with the pass rush behind it. And that's how they play defense. That's what they want to do. And so it's not surprising to see Brad continue to prefer those edge setters. And yes, in an ideal world, you'd get both, and you'd get both in a Marcus Davenport type of player, minus the injury history, right? The reason Davenport's here, though, is because of the injury history, right? Like they can afford him and they can take a chance on him, and that's because some teams are scared off by that injury history. And if you want to get a guy who can do both, you're gonna have to pay for it. And right now, Brad is more inclined to spend his money elsewhere.
Yeah, I do think we have to give fans at least a little bit of credit here, though, because the concern and desire for an edge goes beyond like, hey, I just want someone who can get 10 sacks a season. It's I want someone I can trust to be out there if Davenport goes down, right? And who is the guy that you would trust most right now to fill that role? Is it Josh Paschal? Is it Levi Onwuzurike?
I think
is it
it'd be
Al-Qadim
Levi.
Muhammad? But I guess the point being is these are all average players
Yes.
at best.
On the edge, yes.
Yeah, and I understand that concern, right? Like, it's one of the most
Sure.
important positions on the team. It can be one of the most disruptive in football. And to want to have, like, at least 3 players you can trust to give you above average performance is not a ridiculous ask. And
No,
so,
I'm with you. I just think he views that other spot as a rotational spot,
Sure.
right? Because, if you look at what they did last year when they're in their base sets with just their 4-man front with a 3-man linebacker situation behind them, they would rush a different package than when they were in nickel, right? And depending on that package, they would flex Aiden from one side to the other in order to keep him more fluid. And then the counterpart they would bring on would be dependent on the scheme that they were running, whether it was base or nickel. And so I believe they view that opposite side as, hey, if we have one guy who can do both roles, great. But if we have to use multiple guys to fill those different roles, depending on the situation we're in, then we're okay with that as well. And I think Levi gives them that flexibility. And again, if Brad's in a situation where he's going to default one way or another, he tends to default to the more big ends because that's a harder role and a more important role for what they want. And then you can still deploy Aiden in a variety of ways. If they didn't have Aiden, I think they would have a completely different approach, but they kind of view Aiden as this chess piece that's going to give you options from both sides. And then that's why I believe they really focused on, trying to increase their interior, or fortify their interior pass rushers or defensive tackles, because those guys have to be able to go all the time. They have to be able to be position flexible. They have to be able to hold up in a lot of different situations, whether it's base or nickel. Those guys are going to be the same. So that opposite Aiden end, if you can find one guy, great. If not, we have the rotating pieces to make it work.
I'm going to ask a spinoff question of this because, if the lines are prioritizing all these edge setters, guys that are good in run defense, what does the lineup look like on third down? Obvious passing situation. Who are the guys that they are going to rely on to rush the passer when they need to? Because, you obviously have some interior options, right? You have Aleem, maybe Tyleek will build that role as he continues to grow. I'm not sure if he's necessarily your third down NASCAR package interior guy right away. Maybe he is for Aleem while he's injured. But who are the edge guys that you really trust to be out there outside of Hutchinson on a third and need to get to the quarterback?
Honestly, I might turn to Derek Barnes and Hassanein. Hassanein, this could be his role. The light your hair on fire and just go get the quarterback. You know what I mean? It's a simplified role for him. It's a way to get him on the field, and you're not going to be able to slow down his tenacity, right? When he gets his opportunity, he's going to come out and it's going to be just like go.
Yeah.
And so in that NASCAR situation, that's what you want. You
Yeah.
want a guy that's just going to just try and destroy everything in front of him to get to that quarterback. And it makes sense for him. And again, Derek Barnes kind of fits what they're looking for. I would use Aiden more on the edge. Personally, they tend to like to shift him in when they can. And again, I think Davenport can fit into this situation as well. You can use Levi in the middle if you want to kick Aiden back
Sure.
out. And so they have some options on how they want to do it. It wouldn't surprise me to see them also bring maybe a guy like Nowaski into the mix. Like this could be an opportunity for him to get cleaner looks in rushing the passer. And he has that bigger body that, they're not going to be surprised if the team calls a run instead. He's still big enough to kind of hold up. It'll be interesting. Would they go to 3 safety sets
Maybe.
and blitz branch, right? Like
Right.
I'm open for that as well. But
I don't think they're
in
going to blitz any less. I know people maybe got fed up with that or whatever, but I think they'll continue to blitz a lot. Maybe, they cranked it up certainly when some of the injuries happened and they needed to. But like I do think maybe when you like look at this from a NASCAR package standpoint, like that's maybe where the chinks in the armor show up at least a little bit with the guys that you got, because so many of these guys that we're talking about on the edge, like Pascal, like Owens Enrique, they're like, you kick those guys inside on third down because they got a little, they're big, but they're twitchy, right? They can beat those interior offensive linemen. And so you have a lot of those guys, but like you said, they also like to throw Aiden on the inside sometimes in there. So like, who are the true edge pass rushers when you get to those NASCAR packages? And I don't know if your answer is Derek Barnes. I feel
I'd
like
love to keep Aiden out there.
Right.
Yeah,
I think so
I really would.
All right, let's move on. We'll still talk with the defensive line here. And in fact, you gave me the perfect segue to Hassanein, and then I continued to talk about something else. But Duckline asked, what are the floor/ceiling predictions for Hassanein? I'm hoping for a Deshaun Hand without the injuries. So do you want to treat this as a long-term question or year one question, or both?
Both. Let's address both. I think. So I get what you're saying with Hand, where he's a position flexible guy. I think they're different styles of players though.
Sure.
Hassanein is closer to what you're going to get with like Davenport than necessarily Hand. Whereas I think Hand is a little bit closer to like your Josh Pascal, Levi Owens Enrique type of guy. So I do think stylistically it's different, but from a contributing standpoint, I think you're hoping for a guy that you get on day 3 who can be a steady situational pass rusher and have a little bit of flexibility. In year 1, it's really going to be about him learning to control his intensity and develop his pass rushing skills. They're going to cut him loose on special teams and just let him, destroy people in front of him. That's no brainers. I also think, like the NASCAR, where there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. Just like, again, turn him loose. That's an option. But I do think eventually he starts getting into the rotation later on in the season. Right now, I expect him to be at best edge 5, at best.
Yeah.
And he might even be edge 6. But then by the midway point of the season, if he's in the rotation of the first 4, if he's in the 2 deep, I think that would be considered a success.
Right.
For year 1.
Like jumping
if he doesn't
Muhammad, right? Like that's kind of the
right
point right there.
Right. If he doesn't get to that until year 2, I think that's still perfectly fine.
Sure.
Right. Because this is a 6th-round pick, right? Like expecting him to play a significant role is, I think, it's a little bit presumptive, right? Yeah. And so, situational guy. He's got some things to learn, but when you have opportunities to just let him cut loose, I think they're going to give him those.
Yeah, I think there's this perception that like the sky is the limit with a guy like this, and I mean, I get why, right? Like, the guy's an incredible story. He was incredibly productive at Boise State. his intensity will take him a long ways. He's reportedly smart and will take to coaching and all that sort of stuff. But there are some like literal physical limitations to his game, right? There is a ceiling there that is like he's not going to be a bendy edge that is, could be an Aiden Hutchinson type, right? There's a limit, and obviously that's an incredibly high bar to set. But I guess my point is, I think early on, I think he actually could be a pretty decent edge setter early in his career, just with like the physicality that he leans into, right? Like he has kind of the Marcus Davenport mentality of like violence and hitting people. And I think he understands setting the edge. There's a lot more nuance to pass rushing. And that's something that if ever develops is going to be, I think, like 2 years down the line type of thing, even though he had the production that he did in college. And maybe right. Maybe the NASCAR package thing is the best for him, where like, I don't want to say cleanup sacks, but in a way, like he's kind of the perfect cleanup sack guy because he has that high motor, because, if the quarterback is holding onto the ball and scrambling, like he's the guy that is going to continue to be running and rushing his ass off and might come down with a sack. But I think in general, like best case scenario to me long-term with Hassanein is probably not a starter, but probably like edge 3. Like he is the guy that is getting, he is going to be heavy in the rotation, can be a 3-down guy, but is more likely, every other series maybe he comes in, or every third series he comes in and plays an entire series. But like it would be a great story, and I guess I'm not saying it's out of the question, but anyone who's like, I think this guy's going to be a 10 sack a season type guy, I think we got to pull the reins back on that a little bit.
Yeah, could he have a James Houston type impact at some point where he gets 8 sacks in like situational roles? Sure, but like, is that going to be consistent? I do think that's you're looking at it with some rosy glasses there, but I agree with you. I don't to expect a 6th round pick to come in and start is you're asking a lot. If you look around the league and you look at like who the starting edge rushers are, right, you're going to be hard pressed to find a lot of guys that are like 6th rounders or 6th, 7th rounder UDFAs. It's a little harder to find those guys out there, and so him reaching a starting level of position, he would be an outlier, right? Yeah. And maybe he if you're going to bet on a guy to be an outlier, you're going to bet on the guy who has insane intensity and work ethic. And so
is just learning the game.
I'm not ruling it out, but I'm saying expecting him to reach that, you got long odds.
That is better said than what I said. But I'm right there with you. All right. Next question here. We got rookie minicamp coming up on Friday. So Curlicast, who are you most excited to see? Technically, Curlic said in minicamp, but because they canceled mandatory minicamp, I'm assuming this is just based on rookie minicamp. Although, if you want to throw OTAs in there as well, even though we only got 2 that we'll see.
Let's answer both.
Yeah, okay.
Let's answer both.
Okay.
In rookie minicamp, I am would be most looking forward to watching Tyleik Williams face off against Leif Fautaneu. They're
not even going to be in pads, Erik.
Doesn't matter. I want to see movement. I want to see how they move. When we get to training camp, that's again going to be a matchup that I want to see.
Fair.
Whether it's Leif or whether it's Kingsley Iguakin, I want to see how these young centers handle this 1st round pick, and if he has pass rush that's going to show up, it's going to show up against these younger centers.
Sure.
And so, yes, I always gravitate to the trenches. And so Tyleik, I want to see if you're set up against a situation where you should have an advantage, can you show me the missing element that I think is missing from your game? And if you can, great. Now it'll be about refining that and keep going forward. I don't expect Tyleik to be like this pass rusher where also it's going to show up against Frank.
Right.
I think
right.
that's not expected. But do I think Tyreek is going to make things life hard on Frank? Like when it comes to like winning in the trenches and being physical? Yeah, I expect that. But from a pass rush perspective, I want to see Tyreek's pass rush. I want to see, does it show up against the young rookie centers or younger centers? And can those young centers show up and maybe stall him?
Right.
Because if they can, now we're talking about challenging guys for Michael Neese. And that's something that I really would like to see those young guys do, because I think there's a niche for him, and there's a niche for that role that he had last year. And is he Gwakin a guy that can challenge for that? Or is Fauciano a guy who maybe shouldn't have been an undrafted guy? Maybe he can show up. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Erik loves him some center 3 battles in May when no pads are on.
It don't matter. I movement is important. I want to see the movement.
No. This time of year, only one thing matters. It's the perimeters. It's wide receivers versus corners. All I care about, not all I care about, but the most thing I care about is TeSlaa. It's going to be the most interesting. I feel like you can garner the most information this time of year out of wide receiver versus corner. Granted, again, like you're not full contact at this point. You can't really do any sort of contact. So it's not 100%, but like I want to see the explosion. I want to see the size. I want to see what he can do. I want to see the strong hands, right? I want to see him any sort of gritty. I want to see his work ethic that are all apparently, top tier, right? And listen, it's the draft pick, whether you agree with the pick or not. It's the one that Brad Holmes has to answer for the most, right?
Sure.
Because it was the most unexpected. It was the costliest in terms of trade up. And so, yeah, like I want to be clear here. This is out of a curiosity thing, not out of a like critical thing. I don't want to go out there and be like, see, this is why he was wrong. I want to see what he sees, right? I want to go out there and see like same thing that he saw at the Senior Bowl. I want him pissing off cornerbacks. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. So is he still the guy that you're most looking forward to when the pads come on? Or is it now going to be someone else? Because you're still looking for his physicality, his ability to win over the middle, stuff like that. Is it still him, or does it change?
Well, if we're opening it up to everyone else, like there are
that's the second. That's the second part,
right? I mean, part of it, like I think one of the most underrated parts about training camp, everyone gets all excited about the rookies. I get a little bit more excited about the second year guys, the second and third year guys. So like
Giovanni Manu versus Hassanein.
Sure.
Give me that.
Honestly,
that's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. That would be great.
Right?
I want to see Terrion take a year 2 step. I want to see what Ennis has in we didn't get to see any of that last year. And so
Ennis versus TeSlaa. Bring it.
Absolutely.
Fun.
Exactly. Now we're talking. Not you want to talk about Gwakin and stuff. I get it. I get it.
I like a Gwakin. I like a Gwakin. I think he's a sleeper for the 53. Let's see what Grant Stewart can do against one of these backs.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see if he can he run with one of these guys?
Those like Grant Stewart pass rushing drills versus a running back.
Sione Vaki. Vaki versus Stewart. Let's go.
Yeah. Now you got me back on board again.
Let's do. There's some fun ones. There's fun stuff that's going to happen, because when you have good players like this, boy, oh boy, does it get fun. Give me DJ Reader versus Tate Ratledge. Let's do muscle on muscle. Let's see what happens there. Right. Let's look. I don't. Jeez, it's harder to get this matchup, but they sure like to do it. Hutch versus Sewell is drop everything and watch.
It really
matchup. It is one of the best defenders in the NFL versus the best offensive lineman in the NFL, and you get to watch them for free. And they only do it a couple of times, and but that we get to see. But man, I get about as close as I can to that matchup, because it is must see TV. I don't know, what else are we missing? What else?
I'm sure there's a million things like
St. Brown versus Amik. That's That's awesome.
The one-on-one tackling drills, like with Amon-Ra and whoever he hand selects to go against, is always extremely entertaining.
It was Terry on.
It was Terry on last year, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll pick Reed this year.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to test that CB1. Yeah, why not?
All right.
Who's Dan Skipper gonna fight? Is it gonna be Derek Barnes again? I mean, like just cause
Barnes is gonna be itching to get out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Training camp is still 2.5 months away. What's next week is the NFL schedule getting dropped. And so we're going to close out here with a couple questions about the NFL schedule. Tim Bowers on Twitter asks, would you want a tougher first half of the season schedule or second half? Factors to consider: outdoor games early, relative health of the team, being able to possibly surprise team with new wrinkles from new coordinators, or giving new coordinators time to gel.
It's a tough question, right?
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, you'd want your tougher opponents later because it gives you more time to gel. At the same time, I expect this team to come out of training camp ready to go, and maybe you get an opponent that would be tougher later in the season that you maybe will want early because you think you're going to be more ready to go than they are. So.
Sure.
I don't know if I have a clean answer for this, right? I think there's certain teams that you're going to want early and there's certain teams you're going to want late, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like, I want it all tough late or all tough early. You know what I mean? I kind of want it balanced, right? I want a cupcake game sprinkled in amongst like two harder games.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just gives you a little bit of, time to recuperate. And those I want later in the season when you are dealing with injuries. I want outdoor games earlier in the year when the weather's nicer, because I know you're a big proponent of not liking snow football games, and I get that because it's sloppy. But yeah, I'd rather play Chicago in September than December, right? I'd rather play in Green Bay in October than January. So yeah, those are the things that I kind of like or would be hoping for when the schedule comes out.
There is something to getting off to a strong start and having that boost in morale in the city and in the locker room and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I look at the schedule, one of the things I like looking for is facing those teams that might be slow out of the gate because they're dealing with something new. So facing the Bears early in the season is nice because Ben Johnson is just starting to figure things out there. Facing a team like
Cleveland.
Do they have
with 18 quarterbacks, right? Yeah, it's home. It's a home game.
Sure. You could probably throw the Vikings in there too, right? J.J. McCarthy early in his career. Rather face him earlier in the year than later in the year.
Yeah.
You're probably going to do a little bit of both.
Who knows what's going to happen with their quarterback? Who knows
who's going to be their quarterback? But like there is definitely that feeling too of like if you push everything early easy and then like you have to have this gauntlet of games to get through to make the playoffs, like you don't want that either.
Sure.
And
yeah, like give me Giants at home in December. That's fine.
Right?
I'm not worried about them. Yeah. Not worried about the Giants.
Nice. The other thing that I think is an interesting thing to consider that just kind of popped in my head here is because the Lions are going to have a longer ramp-up period because of the Hall of Fame game, because they're going to start training camp a little bit early, maybe they're a little bit more prepared at the beginning of the season. Maybe they are going to just be rip-roaring ready to go week one, whereas some of these other teams, maybe that means you do want to face one of these good teams right out the gate because you're likely to be among the times in which you're most healthy in the season. You're going to be going to have that longer ramp up period. So
at Chicago week one, give it to me. That's what I want.
I kind of want.
I want to see it.
I kind of want Ant Commanders just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure the NFL will too. Like they'll put
that one. Get the revenge out of the way.
Sunday night at Commanders Sunday Night Football. No, that'll sell tickets. That'll have ratings.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Speaking of primetime games, our last question here comes from Russian Bot on Twitter. asks, with the schedule release day coming up, how many primetime games do you think the Lions get? / who are their opponents?
Well, how many did they get last year? 6?
The maximum is 6. I'm not sure if they got 6 right off the bat.
Well, it depends, I guess, if you count Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
Because they had 5, and then you get Thanksgiving. Yeah, right. So I expect them to max out.
Right. They were one of the highest rated teams in terms of TV ratings last year. I think they were second. Yeah. Is that what Brad or Rod Wood said? I think it was something like that. So
people love to watch them. Ever since Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks was the best thing that ever happened to this team nationally.
Yes.
And so who will their opponents be?
The tricky part is there's so many candidates particularly because of their away schedule, which, let me remind you, here outside of the division games are who they play away this year. Ravens, Bengals, Eagles, Commanders, Rams, Chiefs.
Yep.
That is wild.
Mm-hmm.
That is almost all 6 of those teams made the playoffs. The Bengals didn't.
Bengals were the last team out in the AFC,
yes.
right? And then when you add in the division, both the Packers and the Vikings also made the playoffs, right? So you're talking about Bengals and Bears are the only away teams that didn't make it.
Right.
Yeah, away games. Right. I think Philly is an absolute primetime game. They're going to force that one way or another.
Yeah. I think Bears are going to be one too. Based
on what they did last year when they had the Lions do a rematch with LA, like right out the gate.
Yep.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did a Lions Washington in prime time as well. That's what I was saying, like Sunday night, right? Because that's what they did last year. Why not have them face off Sunday night, week 1? So Philly, Washington, and
Chicago.
Will it be Bears? Will it be Bears at home though in prime time?
I think if I was creating the schedule, I think the crowd is going to be more energized with Ben Johnson coming back to Detroit. Like it'll kind of have a little bit of that
would be
Matthew
a home
Stafford returning to Detroit feeling.
So let's do 3 home, 3 away.
Okay.
Right. So away, Washington and Eagles, I think, are going to happen. I don't think it'll be the Rams back to back. I don't think it'll be the Ravens or the Bengals. It's the Ravens. It's the Ravens for us because we're terrified of that game because of it's hard to beat the Ravens.
Justin Tucker's gone. That team doesn't scare me anymore.
Okay. So could they do Chiefs again? I mean, why not, right? If you want ratings, Eagles, Commanders, Chiefs, those are the ones that are road games that are going to get you ratings.
Yeah. I mean, they always seem to pick a Lions-Packers game to be primetime too, though.
Great. They don't have a lot of candidates at home. So Packers,
maybe that's where the Packers
Browns, and Tampa Bay, maybe who's their Thanksgiving opponent going to be? I bet it's Packers or Bears for Thanksgiving.
Probably.
Right.
But I mean, you could do Cowboys or Steelers just because people watch those games. Those are very popular teams, even if we think they're going to be kind of garbo this year.
Let's do Dallas on Thanksgiving. Really just mess everything up.
Definitely not going to do that. They just go back to back. It's a twofer. It's a double header between Cowboys and they have to travel. They play and then immediately get on a plane to Dallas.
Boy, I really think they would do something silly, like because of the audience, like you just mentioned, have a Giants, Lions, Monday night, week 16. That would be a massacre. Yeah. It would be a massacre. It would be hilarious.
Just watching Eli Manning on Manning Vision just cover his eyes in horror.
Implode. Peyton's the biggest Lions fan ever now. Just to troll his brother.
Yeah, he's like, sorry I lifted the curse, Eli. That's my Peyton Manning impression, by the way.
You nailed it. But yeah, a Thanksgiving opponent probably be a division again, which I don't like. I don't like that they do a division one, but whatever. I expect it to be a division. Maybe Bears in prime time.
Bucks would be kind of fun.
And then I think it would, but
a little bit of a rivalry happening there.
I'm leaning with you that they would lean on the national, like what would draw the biggest audience,
right?
And Giants, Cowboys, Steelers, they all have bigger fan bases than the Bucks do. Even though the Bucks, they're one of only the 3 teams that beat them last year,
right?
And they had that rival, they had the playoff game the year before that, so there's some history there.
Yeah, it's already,
I just
played
don't
them 3
know.
times already in the past 2 years.
Right. And I don't know if the schedule makers would go that way. I think it would be okay, but they do tend to lean towards the bigger fan bases. So yeah.
All right.
I do think the Bears in week 1 would be fun, but I'm now talking myself into thinking Washington Sunday night might be. I'm going to say be what they do week 1.
I convinced you of that. You're welcome.
Sure. The more we talk about it, the more I'm starting to lean. I can look. You brought up the point about the national fan base as well. That makes a lot of sense.
Well,
yeah. All right.
We'll find out in a week.
So prediction.
Yeah.
Washington Sunday night.
Yep.
Hope. Bears 1:00 at Bears 1:00. Do you have a prediction
or for week 1?
Yeah.
I do
prediction and preference.
I kind of mirror you, I think, in both those, but I'll say something to be different. Let's open up at home.
No, you don't have to. You can just say how smart I am.
I think at home Sunday night against the Bears would be an awesome week 1. Just boo the crap out of Ben Johnson in week 1.
There you go.
On a Sunday night. Give me that. That's more of a want than a hope, or that's more of a hope than a think, I guess. What I think is maybe more likely, I don't know. I think the Lions might get a 1:00 game in week 1. I feel like they were Thursday night.
It's because they're a draw.
They were Thursday night 2 years ago. They were Sunday night last year. Like, let's let some new blood in. Like, maybe like the Commanders are an up and coming team. So like maybe that's what they lean. I mean, it could be Eagles Commanders. That would be a great Thursday night opener. But I think, my prediction is a 1:00 game, a relative throwaway game. Lions, Giants at home, week 1.
Oh God, just a slaughter, just a slaughter.
Just kick it off with a game that no one pays attention to. I'm cool with
that. I want the Giants at the end of the schedule when I don't have to really worry about them, when they've already cashed in their chips and they don't care anymore. That's good. Give me that walkout week.
I'm down with that as well. But we will find out in a week from today, Wednesday the 14th. It's when the schedule will drop. We'll have a whole bunch of coverage, obviously, for that at prideofdetroit.com. Other stuff coming up. We'll have the PODcast, as always, coming to you most likely on Sunday, maybe Monday. First Bite is going to begin with our draft recap series. We're actually going to start with Ahmed Hassanein. We've got a Boise State writer that we're going to be talking to. Actually, we're going to be recording it later on Wednesday. It should be up on Pride of Detroit Direct later this week, either Thursday or Friday. If you want access to that, prideofdetroit.com/subscribe. And then, I think that's about all we got. Anything, any sort of messages you want to send to the people before we get out of here, Erik?
Nope. It's nice to be back chatting with everyone.
All right. For Erik, for myself, thank you all for listening. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. We have 12 minutes before we got to get out of here, so we can continue to answer some questions if you have any. In the meantime, I'll get through a couple alerts here. Uncle Indigo, 51 months subscribed to the channel. Appreciate you, buddy. And BW the Kid, 41 months. As 41 months flew by. Damn, I'm old. 41 months. That's over 3 years. Wait, no. Yeah. Yes.
According to math.
Different team 3 years ago, huh? It was fun. So we did the Brad Holmes approval poll this week, and just looking at the approval ratings, and it never dropped below 80. I think maybe there was like a 79 mixed in there, but like, November 2023 and beyond, it was just like 97, 98, 99, 99, 99, 99.
Yeah.
Currently at 97, which I think is mildly interesting.
Yeah. Do you have you listened to some of the I try not to get too caught up in the draft grades because I don't know, they're kind of pointless and they're kind of they get a bit redundant with you know what they're trying to do, and so you get people trying to be different.
Yep.
like the Athletic, which is like, this is based totally on science, which but the data that we're using is totally based on opinion. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, all right,
they're trying to be objective,
still
but like,
yeah, it's still a flawed system. So calm down. But yeah, but I saw like a video clip of McShay, and he had some pretty low grades on certain players. Like I mentioned, like TeSlaa, he had him at like 270 or whatever, right? And even McShay was like, the Lions, according to my board, reached on like almost every pick. And he's like, but if you want to bet against Brad Holmes, you can do that on your own. Right. I'm not going to do it. He's like, so I still think that they knocked it out the park, even though it didn't align with my rankings. And like, he was like, it was neat to see that kind of like that take, right? Because he talks about now that he's like kind of cut loose from ESPN, how he doesn't feel like, he talks about how ESPN has they kind of shackled him and kind of like held him in check and didn't let him say as much. Down? Yes. And he was like, he wasn't allowed to like share as much as he kind of is now. And so now he's like, yeah, I never would have like taken that approach. Cause now he's like, yeah, I'm not betting against Brad Holmes. He's like, yeah, I thought TeSlaa wasn't worth the pick. And I thought they gave up a lot, but yeah, Brad's proven to be the guy that he is for a reason. And so it makes sense for him. I'm going to go with him.
I forgot.
And you don't see that enough. Like you see more, right. You see more guys that are like, this is the way it is. And it's the law because I'm using analytics to make my points. Go ahead. I'm done.
No, I honestly, most of the critics that I saw of the Lions draft were all of them were like, I know I'm setting myself up to get posterized by the Lions in 2 years.
Right.
But I didn't like these picks. And all of the, and sure. that That's is good. Also kind of fun to hear, right? Like, I know that the Lions historically have been smarter than me, but I'm still going to say I don't like their picks, right? And just like imagine saying that to someone 10 years ago. It's like anyone who is critical of the Lions is now prefacing, I know I'm probably wrong because the Lions are smart.
Yeah.
It's a wild time because it used to be the other thing where it's just like anytime the Lions even did something smart or perceived as smart, it was, but they're the Lions. I'm not going to give them credit for good moves because they're the Lions. Now it's, I'm scared to criticize them for what I perceive to be as a bad thing because they're the Lions. And that
now it's like, you know, this might be the most complete roster in the NFL. And it's like, yeah, you might be right. Like, it's crazy. It's a couple of years.
It was. So I also did the 8 free agents the Lions could sign right this week. And at first I'm like, I'm gonna do all the positions. I'm gonna do every single position that they could add someone. I'm not just gonna be holding. And then I'm like, where? Where else? I ended up just doing edge and safety because I don't know where else you can fit a guy. Literally. Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah. It's probably just edge too, if that.
Yeah.
And it's probably just one. It's probably just 2 guys. He could have had 2 guys to pay attention to.
But like, I want to throw that to the live audience. Like, where do you think they could legitimately add someone who's out there in free agency and upgrade the roster in a way that would make sense at any other position but edge and safety? I literally can't point to one. Am I crazy?
Not in free agency. It's just.
And just
The thing
think
is
about how ridiculous that is.
Every position that you're like, oh, they could probably add a veteran, and then you're like, oh, they have 3 young guys that are all competing for that one spot. Like, oh, they could probably, add a guard. Oh, but they also have 3 guards
Guard
that
would be
are
an insane position to add to right now.
right. Like Moody and Aoshika have starter level experience, and we're like, yeah, by the end of camp, they're probably going to be guard 5 and guard 6.
Right. Both of those guys might not make the team. That's how crazy it is.
Yeah. It's the interior is so crazy.
Yeah.
To see how that's going to shake out. But that's why I like that center 3. Who's going to be center 3? Can he be center 2? It's stupid, but I'm like,
Graham is center 2. And no one is going to beat out Graham for the center 2.
But that's what I mean. But I mean, like, who can bump Michael Neese? That's the point that I've gotten to. It's who do I think is going to make the 53 that I don't want on a 53? And then I'm like, who can beat him?
I mean, backup quarterback is maybe the closest to an actual answer, but like it's clear Kyle Allen was the guy that they brought in.
I like Hendon. I am one of the few people that don't think Hendon is bad.
I do too, but
weird.
like I can see people who wanted to bring in more serious competition for him to push him, right?
I know, it's fine. Kyle Allen's a clipboard holder. That's fine. I'm not worried about that.
I'm not panicking over it like some people are.
People are panicking over quarterback too?
Yeah.
Come on.
Of course they are, because you have someone who's
Really?
never started a game, one injury away from starting a game.
Yeah. If they needed to, they'll just call down to Florida. Get old Teddy back.
You think they could pull him during the high school season?
Maybe. I think Hendon can hand the ball off, and that might be enough.
Just reverse to JMO every play.
Like if it's like if Goff were to get hurt and it was like, uh-oh, the Lions' next opponent is the Giants, they're gonna be like, yeah, we're good. We'll be all right. If it's like the Ravens, then it's like, well, we might just take a loss there. Like, I don't know. Like,
but that, I mean, I guess that's the point.
Really,
and of
depends.
course, like every team is effed once their starter goes, right?
Yeah. Well, I've said this for years. There aren't 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. There's not that level of talent. There's maybe 20. And everybody else is just hoping.
Yeah.
And that's why the Browns have 7 of them.
And that's why you invest in your offensive line, is to keep your starting quarterback healthy.
Right?
But anyways, like that process of like, let's come up with some 8 free agents that could make this team better, and struggling to find anything outside of 2 positions was even more of a wake up call than I mean, I didn't feel like I needed it, because I've known the roster is deep and strong at literally every position, but it was another one of those moments where you just kind of like sit back and be like, oh, wow, this team's pretty damn good.
Who was the guest on Good Morning Football this week? Like, I know they have their regulars, like Jamie and Kyle are like they're kind of like standard.
Yeah.
And they've introduced a couple of like former players, but they seem to be like rotating a player. Like it was Kabinda for a week. Manti, Manti's becoming more regular. But they had a former Steeler on the other day, and they were talking all NFC North. And so I was watching it, and the audacity of him to make some of the statements that he made was baffling to me. They had to rank their top 3 NFC quarterbacks, and he had Jordan Love as the third best quarterback in the NFC, which is laughable. And then he talked about the Packers being the best team in the NFC North, and he was like, because it's Jordan Love, and if you watch his game, he's beaten the demons that he needs to, and he kept talking about how Jordan Love has beat the Lions, and I'm like, dude, that was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, like once out of 4 opportunities.
Yes, I'm like, you have to stop. You have to stop with this narrative that you think he's like he just went on and on. It got to the point that the host was like, I had to double check that you didn't attend Utah State because of how glowing you are of Jordan Love right now.
Oh, wait. He said he said he was the third best quarterback in the division?
No, in the NFC.
In the
NFC. In the whole conference.
Okay.
In the whole conference.
Because I'm like, why?
He said he was
that offend you?
Yeah,
like,
best quarterback in the division, third best quarterback in the conference. The Packers. I mean, he just kept going, and his argument for every time someone would push back against him was, well, I've watched the film. Obviously, you guys haven't watched the film. And they were like, oh, good job. You know, like, way to stand up for, your opinion. But he just kept saying, like, if you watch him, he's overcome all the obstacles he needs to. And he kept saying, he beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. He beat the Lions and I'm like, someone tell him when that was.
Right.
Because that was not last year. Last year he was throwing pick sixes to Kirby to lose games in Lambeau, which, segues to Terry on being able to go on stage and make fun of the Packers audience. Like we should know this stuff. This is standard.
I mean, for a guy that has gotten through all of the bad things in his career, does anyone remember his last game last season? Playoffs.
Oh, he always is bad in the playoffs. Like he
had
always
good game against Dallas where they just smoked Dallas.
Oh, that was a thing. They were like it was the other thing. Oh, they slayed Dallas, and I'm like, Dallas sucked. Like, come on,
but
come on. This is again a year ago.
Wild card round. They had to play the Philadelphia Eagles. Sure, the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles. Do you remember at all?
Oh, they ran into the Eagles.
What his game was like?
It was terrible. He threw like 3 interceptions or something like that. He
sure did. He went 20 of 33 for 212 yards, 33 attempts, only 212 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 41 passer rating.
Yeah, and he threw the interception to lose them the game against San Francisco a couple years back.
In the divisional round. Yep.
Yeah. But hey, he beat the Lions on Thanksgiving one time. So good for him. All right, rant over.
I will say, like, so at the end of last year, there was the belief that Jordan Love is him, right? He finished last year strong.
Oh yeah.
Outside of
the year before
the interception, in 2023.
Yeah.
I think there was some course correction that happened last year. Where people are like, okay, maybe he's not him.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of people pushing too much in that direction now, saying like he sucks.
No, he doesn't suck, but he's not him.
He is not at this point in his career anywhere close to, wow, the Packers have 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row.
Yeah.
Like anywhere close to that. He is.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say he's the second best quarterback in the division right now.
Oh, sure.
But that's kind of a low bar to set.
Right? Yeah, I'm with that. He can be the second best quarterback in the NFC North. That's fine.
Is the correct? So the first 2 are easy. The last 2 are hard. Are you putting Caleb Williams just by having a year of experience over JJ McCarthy?
Yeah. That might change after like week 2, but yeah. For now, I think JJ's he's unproven. Like, you got to see what he can do.
But I think it's fair to have enough trust in that coaching staff that they can get him to a good place. Probably.
Yeah, sure. They got the best coach for it, right? Yeah, He's in a good spot. JJ's in a good spot, and
Best
I don't know
spot
how fast he'll develop.
that's the ultimate
I'm
question
hoping it's
because
not-
it's not just that he didn't play last year. It's like he missed the majority of training camp after getting injured in the first preseason game. He's not even out there, in the huddle throwing. I mean, I'm sure he was in all the meetings and learning all that sort of stuff, but nothing like on field experience, even in practice, and he didn't get any of that last year.
I think he has the talent to be better than Caleb, although they have littered Caleb with options and then given him the golden, child of offensive coordinator, play calling. And so there's really should be no excuses for Chicago not having a top 10 offense with the number one pick at quarterback, all the investment in the skill players. There's no reason they shouldn't be. But when
not
they're
necessarily
not,
out of the
it'd be
gate,
interesting to
right?
see what
Like
the excuses are. Oh no,
but
no,
I mean, like early on,
no expectations, top 10 right out the gate.
No. If you're being realistic, any new system is going to take time.
I've seen it. I've seen those expectations.
Yeah.
Bears have a top 10 NFL offense. That's what people are saying. Lunacy. But go ahead.
It could
I
be
want
by
to
the end.
go off.
I'm not saying. I'm saying that could happen by the end of the year. But the reason why I want to play them early in the season is like that stuff doesn't happen overnight. That stuff doesn't happen in week 1, week 2. I do think they have a really good offensive roster. And obviously a pretty darn good play caller.
It's all going to hinge on that line, man.
Yeah.
If that line can't hold up.
But they put a lot into that. And
nice thing is that they didn't add a good running back. So that's really going to, I think, hurt them. I'm happy about that.
Who did they eventually drafted a guy though, didn't they?
I don't know. I assume they took all skill players because that's how they started. So I assume that's what they just did. So
they take Kyle Munagai.
Oh, Munagai. Yeah.
Munagai.
Yeah. He's a bulldozer. He's I actually like him, but he's a situational short yardage guy right now. Yeah. That's about it.
Him and Swift, baby. Thunder and lightning.
Yeah. That's nothing. You're going to get 80 yards, maybe.
But I mean, they plugged resources into the offensive line, but again, offensive line needs chemistry. Like you need to.
No investment in the future, though.
Sure, they did.
Just it's all right now.
No,
in the offensive line.
No, they drafted one guy.
Did they draft a guard?
They drafted one last year.
Who they? No, they drafted. Oh, but they moved him inside, didn't they?
I don't know.
The one guy that they drafted. Yeah, they've tried. They didn't invest any of this
in the second round.
Oh, all right. So he's a right tackle. He plays the same spot as Darnell Wright. So that's fine.
Wright. That's who I was thinking.
Darnell Wright's going to be fine.
Luke
Trapilo
Newman
would be okay, but he's just going to be okay.
I don't know anything about Luke Newman, but Michigan State guy drafted in the 6th round or something. 5th round? 5th round.
I'm not going to say anything because he went to State, so I don't want to get a bad rep for purposely bad mouthing Michigan State.
I'm just saying, in general, I think it makes a lot of sense to plug as many holes right now so that you can get the development of your quarterback starting. Right? It's hard to develop a quarterback if he's on the run all the time. So get these short term figured out and draft guys behind them. That's kind of what they did.
All right. You say so. All right. I'm going to go pick my kid up.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry. It's 11:38.
My fault. Right.
All right, y'all. Should you what?
Oh, I was just going to say FTP and then shut the thing and walk away. And then
FTP or FTP?
Yes.
All right. See you guys later.
Yeah. Both. He had a V in there, too.
Sure. And ours. Refs.
Everybody. Everybody.
Oh,
they should have a phrase. They should have a phrase that encompasses everybody.
Right, like Detroit against the totality of people.
Sure. You nailed it.
Is that
put on a t-shirt. Put on a t-shirt. Paint it on the wall.